Hi there, I'm Matt, co-founder and CEO at Savvi, and I'm going to walk you through how I use the Savvi platform to manage my financing process. So first I'm going to start at just our website, savvi.legal, and I'm going to drill down into our founder solutions, and I'm going to find Savvi Raise. And you don't obviously have to do this when you're using the platform, but I thought I'd start at the top in case you're new. So Savvi supports all different layers of complexity when it comes to financing scenarios. We have self-serve financings that you can use the platform for, such as running safes and convertible notes, and that's what I'm going to show you today. You can set up data rooms, and I'm also going to show you that today. You can prepare for due diligence and getting all of your cap table and corporate record documentation up to date. We also have what we call supported financings, which include preferred stock financings, or if you're using a roll-up vehicle as a part of either a safe or a preferred stock financing. And we also have full service scenarios where you're engaging with our team to help you go through a pre-diligence audit to actually manage the transaction itself, from data room setup and due diligence to signature collection and making sure that all the wires are coming through. And we can also connect you with counsel. And so Savvi is unique in the sense that we have a self-serve platform that is software as a service, and we also offer integrated services depending on the complexity of your financing event and just the needs that you have as a founder. And so I'm going to assume that for today's video that you are going to be using Savvi to set up and issue set up a safe financing and issue agreements and setting up a data room to share with your investors as part of that process. So now I'm going to reference the platform subscription that is required to do this. You just need to be on a starter plan if you're doing a self-serve financing, and that will cover access to the workflows and features that you need in order to set up a basic data room and to run through a safe or convertible financing. So now getting into the platform itself. So I've gone ahead and logged in, and I already have an account with my operating company, Savvi Tutorials Inc. I have a roll-up vehicle or a special purpose vehicle. It's the same thing. A roll-up vehicle is just if it's managed by the founder or the company itself. And this is from a previous financing that this company did. And I also have an LLC that I've set up as a subsidiary of my operating company. And so I'm managing those here. But I'm going to be setting up and managing this financing as a part of Savvi Tutorials Inc. because I'm going to be issuing safes directly to accredited investors. So this is my dashboard. Looks like I have some open tasks that aren't financing related, but soon I'm going to have some things on my dashboard that relate to this financing. I'm going to head to my workflows view, and I'm going to select the financing filter. And I can see a number of different options that relate to financing events. And in this case, I'm going to be authorizing convertible financing, which could be just a standard safe, or it could be a convertible note. So I'm going to go ahead and start this workflow. And first, it's asking me to give this financing a name. So this is actually a prior financing that we did, Pre-Seed Safe 1. And so I'm actually going to be doing another safe as a part of my ongoing pre-seed round. And I'm going to be doing what some people call stacking safes as a part of my pre-seed. So I'm going to be doing a safe here, and I'm going to make this a pre-money valuation. In this case, I'm going to do a cap only, but we could do a cap with a discount or just a discount as well. And if I have a general counsel associated with my account, then I can also add them to this workflow. Here's some different FAQs that relate to the differences between convertible notes and safes, pre-money and post-money, cap and discount. And so this can help you make some of those decisions as you set up your own financing. And in some cases, the founders are setting these terms. In some cases, these terms are open for negotiation. But you'll notice that I have not set the terms yet. I've just selected the type of SAFE and the type of terms that I'm setting up here. If something changes, I can always go back and restart what's called restart the assessment if I need to go back and change this to like a cap plus discount. But let's assume that we're going to keep this consistent here, and we're going to go ahead and let's see. Yep, I'm going to select cap only, and we're going to initiate the tasks for this. So there's two tasks that I need to do to complete as part of this workflow. One is a convertible financing board consent and generating a term sheet. So first I'm going to go ahead and jump into the first task, generating the board consent. And I've already populated how much I'm going to be raising, $2 million, which you can actually raise less than that, but you're authorizing up to $2 million. And so it's good to authorize more than, in some cases, more than you're actually planning on raising. So I'm going to go ahead and submit these. But because looks like they're already ready, normally it takes about 10 to 15 seconds to generate documents. I'm going to swing back here, and I'm going to grab the link, and I'm going to go ahead and sign this. And I'm going to swing to the next one. For the term sheet, I'm going to be setting the valuation cap at, let's do 12 million. So you can put additional notes if appropriate, but you don't have to put additional notes on the term sheet. In this case, it's just going to be a vanilla SAFE, so I'm going to go ahead and submit that. And you'll notice that as a part of this workflow, I'm generating a data room. And so it'll show up over here on the right as related rooms. And this is showing what the access is set to. If it's just an open room that could be shared with anybody, or if we are requiring them to sign in, or maybe even requiring them to be out on the list of recipients of the data room. And so first I'm going to go ahead and execute this term sheet. And as I'm completing these documents, they're actually going to be populating into the data room dynamically. So that's one of the nice things about the Savvi platform, is that it makes it a lot easier to push documentation and just data and information into the data room. And so this is a look at Savvi's data room, and this is just a pretty standard data room where I'm going to be showing the term sheet, and if I'd like to also even reference the board consent. Maybe I decide that I don't need to show the board consent as a part of this data room, because that's more of kind of an internal process. So I can go ahead and remove that. And you'll notice that I can also choose additional reports that I might want to bring in from my account to populate the data room. And in this case, I'm trying to keep it pretty simple, pretty straightforward. And so I think I'm going to actually just keep the company information, the financing information, and I'm going to go ahead and remove this table because they don't need to know how much I've authorized to raise. And I think I'm going to also remove this table because it's a little redundant. That way I'm just showing the company information, and I'm just going to go ahead and remove that field, and so they know it's a corporation. I'm going to show the high-level details of the SAFE, and I'm going to be referencing in this case, if I'm Henry Ford, I would just be referencing me as the director. So then I'm going to move back to preview mode, and this is what investors would be looking at if they're accessing this link. And so there's a couple things. I'm actually going to update the name of the data room. This is just the kind of the default name that gets populated based on the workflow. And so I'm going to call this the Savvi Tutorials Pre-Seed Safe 2. So that's what I'm going to call this data room here. And yeah, another option I have is if I want to reference any folders in my file cabinet or just external links as well. And so let's say there's a link to a demo or a link to a document that I'm hosting on some other site. I could just insert that, I could just pull that link in to my data room. I'm going to say, okay, this is the website so that they know. And I'm also going to reference some maybe a folder in my file cabinet. And so I have all of my entity documentation in here, and also documentation from previous financing. So I think those are the two ones that I'm going to share. If I wanted to add a direct document, for instance, a pitch deck, then I could upload that directly here for preview. Or a cap table file is commonly something that you want to, a cap table Excel file, something that you might want to reference and make available as a part of your data room. For the sake of time, I'm not going to upload those or add those to this data room, just so that you can kind of see what this looks like. What I generally do, what I'll link to is documents that are maybe, that might be referenced by investors or investor counsel. In terms of like batches of documents, I might link to these folders in the file cabinet, and then uploading individual documents or files. It could be an Excel file, it could be a PDF, it could be a number of file types. And it's going to be available for preview if I'm adding it to the documents section. One more view that's important is the settings view. If you're signed in as an admin, then you can actually control the access. And so I can say, hey, this requires the investor or any viewers of this data room to sign in. And what's nice about that is that if they sign in, when I say sign in, they can use Google to sign in and authenticate, and they don't have to create a Savvi account. But if they do authenticate, then we'll be able to know exactly who visited and when. And so that's and if they've done it multiple times. And so that's handy if you're trying to track what investors are engaged in your data room. And alternatively, you could also say, hey, we're requiring only people that have an invite and authenticate can access the data room, and in that case, they'd have to be added directly, either through the workflow or just on this list within this interaction here, adding a direct email to provide access. So that's an overview of the basic data room, and I can, because I'm logged in as an admin, I can actually access the project itself. But if I was accessing this data room and I was not logged in, then I would only be able to see the high level data room information. I wouldn't be able to edit it. I wouldn't be able to do settings. I wouldn't be able to get it back into the account if I'm not a logged in admin on this account. So in this case, because I'm going to swing back to the workflow, and it's kind of nice because this is kind of the back office view of the financing, and this data room here is representing what I'm sharing, kind of the front office part of this transaction I'm sharing with investors. And so I'm going to now, I'm going to just look into this real quick here. All right, looks like that has been processed. So what I'm going to do is now that I've actually set up this, prepared this convertible financing, and I've set up a data room for it, I'm and let's say I've shared that data room with investors, gone through diligence, and now I'm ready to start onboarding investors. And so to do that, I'm going to be able to either just swing back to the workflows view of my account, or I can simply click exit and swing and head to the workflows view now. And so in this case, I'm going to be selecting execute convertible financing documents, and this is something that you need to go through the authorize or the prepare workflows for preferred stock financing before you can actually execute documents as a part of that financing. So in this case, I've already got this financing in the system, and it's pre-populating the information that we need to generate these safe documents for the investors. And it looks like we already have some saved individuals on this account, and I've got Isaac Investor. Investor is a great last name, I guess. And let's say he's going to be investing again with us, and he's going to be investing the same amount, an additional $10,000 on the next safe as well. And so I'm going to go ahead and add Isaac, and I've got a new investor that I'm bringing on, who we'll call Jerry Investor. He put his email in, and Jerry's going to put a big check in. And I'm going to add one more investor. Well, I think to keep the time down here, I'll just add these two. I'm going to add Jerry and Isaac. And I'm actually going to update Jerry, because let's say that Jerry Investor LLC, Jerry Investments. Let's say that Jerry has a fund that he's investing out of. So that way we can see that we can onboard individuals and also funds through the same process. Note the FAQs on the side. As usual, there's helpful FAQs that you can reference. And so now that I've submitted that, the initial form for this project, for this workflow, I have now a transaction for Isaac and for Jerry Investments. And so in this case, I'm going to go ahead and go through and generate their individual documents. And it's pretty straightforward. We've already got the information that we need. We've already set the valuation. We know the investment amount. So I'm going to go ahead and generate Isaac's documents. And at the same time, I'm going to do the same for Jerry. So go ahead and submit these. Jerry, I'm not going to send an email. I just want to send his link manually and directly to him, so just to make sure that it doesn't get lost in his inbox. All right. So it looks like Isaac's documents are ready to go. And so I'm going to go ahead and first I'm going to go ahead and sign on behalf of Henry, whether that's me or maybe I'm maybe my co-founder's Henry, and I'm doing this on his behalf. We always recommend having the individual sign. And now, what I can actually do is, so you'll note that there's actually a window into our data room that's available as a part of this actual transaction with Henry. With Isaac. And so in this case, we've gone ahead and we're populating the data room with the financing details, and there's also the document that needs to be signed. And so instead of just sharing the link to the document, I could share. I'm going to call this Isaac Investor Safe 2. So what I can do is I can actually share this directly with Isaac, And so I can do that one of two ways. So you'll notice that there's actually two separate links that I could send. So one is for Isaac and one's for Jerry. And the difference is that they both have their individual documents with that link. So now that I've generated these documents, I went ahead and automatically sent Isaac his signature link via email. And I selected to manually share the link with Jerry Investments because I wanted to be able to share the data room and the document at the same time. And so in this case, I've got my own signature link that's available for signature, and then I also have Jerry LLC. So first, I'm going to go ahead and sign it. All right. And now what I'm going to do is, so I'll just show you really quickly. If you were to access this link as logged in as an admin, you're going to be able to see more information and be able to edit this data room. And this is sharing the same data that was in that is in our other version of the data room, but this is just a personal version of the data room with a signature link for Jerry Investments. And so what I'm going to do is show if Jerry Investments were accessing this link directly, what that would look like. So now I'm going to copy this link and I'm going to log out so the system doesn't recognize that I'm the admin. And this is what it would look like if Jerry was accessing this link as a non-admin on your account. So the system's requiring them to sign in, which they can do through Google. In this case, it just so happens that Jerry already has an account, and so I'm going to sign in as Jerry. And now this is what I, as Jerry, would see, and I'm going to have the opportunity to access my link. And so now that the document's been signed by both parties, then we're going to be able to see the completed version of that document in the data room. And so this is, that can be accessible for review later on, or you can actually just close out the transaction once everything's signed and completed. It's up to you if you want to make that room available on a recurring basis. And so now I move back to the dashboard, and we can see we're still waiting on the signatures from Isaac, the investor. And so I can actually just from my dashboard, I can resend an email, I can copy the link, and send it to them directly, and I can also just access the underlying workflow that relates to this. In this case, we've got Jerry Investments that it has completed their document, and we have Isaac investor who we're waiting on. Once the investments are completed, they will be showing up in your investments report, in your reports view, and so that's handy to keep track of those updates over time. And all signed documents will end up in your file cabinet under the financings, in the financings folder, and you can see you can also see the history of those completed tasks on your account. So that's an overview of how you can use Savvi to manage a standard safe financing on a self-serve basis, including the data room. We're also making additional videos on how to manage roll-up vehicles on the Savvi platform, such as what is represented here with this additional workspace that you've added under your primary entity. And so we'll do a walkthrough of how to do that. Also, we'll do a video on preferred stock financings and managing your data room, including for more comprehensive due diligence scenarios that come into play as you raise preferred stock rounds of funding. And so stay tuned for those additional videos that will be linked in the description below. Thanks for tuning in, and thanks for using the Savvi platform. Really appreciate it.